Hi everyone, it's Chris, and welcome to Anime Debate, the only show on the internet where we debate anime topics and shows all in one. Let's get into it with today's battle of two great, phenomenal shows. The bad boys of anime, banned in China, revered around the world. Two of the top anime on everyone's list. Attack on Titan versus Death Note. Let the war begin. And don't forget to let me know what you want to see me debate next on the next Anime Debate. Now go. Let's start with Death Note for giving you the plot. Now, the plot of Death Note is pretty simple. A boy by the name of Light Yagami finds a notebook. He can write down people's names in it. If you write your name in it, you will die. Now, his idea initially when he starts to write down names is to only get rid of bad people and criminals because he wants to shape the world in his vision. He wants the world to be good and have only good people in it. But then he goes a little bit crazy and decides that he wants to rule and be the god of this new world. And you get to see his adventures on how that all plays out. Along with him on this journey are other characters, which will not spoil for you if you've never seen the series. There's also a Shinigami, which is really a Grim Reaper who gave him the book in the first place. The plot is very neat, it's very awesome. And you also get to see a little bit of Light's struggles with being able to enact this plan. You also get to see the person that goes head to head with him by the name of L, who is one of the greatest detectives of all time, rivaling only Batman. I made that part up, but I just think that he's way better than Batman if you really ask me, but I'm not gonna say anything about it. But anyway, Light and L have this great rivalry, and it's really cool to watch it play out, and that's all I'm gonna tell you. That's Death Note. As for Attack on Titan, it's not any more complicated, to be honest. It's kind of really based as well. Basically, there's a town of people who are being attacked by these titans, and they're going to war with them. They want their lives back. They want their security back. And you get to see their internal struggles as well, and how the town deals with this giant mass of evil all around them, or what we're gonna really call evil. We don't really know what to call it. There's more to it too, where there's other characters who have these interactions, who know each other for years, and you see their stories and the unraveling of what happened to Aaron, who's the main character, his dad, and everything in between. And yeah, I won't spoil anything for you there either, because I'm telling you, once you get there, you're like, oh my god! A lot. I feel like both of these shows really shine the fact that they leave you with cliffhangers almost every episode, so when one episode is over, you have to keep watching. They really pull you in, and they really make sure that you are truly, fully engaged. Now, with that said, let's get on with the debate. Now, both these shows have a flair for the dramatic. I'll say that Death Note's probably more dramatic than Attack on Titan, only for the fact that it takes simple things and makes them seem incredible. Like the very act of Light eating a single potato chip is the most epic thing in the world. It is insane. But then on Attack on Titan, when Titans show up and they're taking over the town, and you have to see them, you see the protagonists fighting back, fighting back, you know, with the zip lines, like that action is freaking mind-blowing, and it makes you want to just scream and jump around your house and attach wires to things and slice them with knives. It's just so incredible, and both these shows do an exceedingly awesome job with that. But if I have to give the action angle to anyone, it's going to be Attack on Titan, because the fact is, there are lives at stake during some of these things. Now, I get it, Death Note, yes, there are lives at stake constantly, but you don't really get to see the peril. You just know that someone's gonna die. You get nervous a little bit, but when you watch Attack on Titan and they're fighting those titans, it's like, oh, who's gonna make it? Because sometimes you just don't know. You just don't know. Both of these shows also excel with that aspect as well, with there being a kind of a rule where no one is safe. Like, the main characters so far seem to be pretty safe when you first start watching the show, but then you just don't know. Anyone could die, even your most beloved character. But it's all used to help pull us into the show and make us even more intrigued from what we started with. I also like the fact that that Attack on Titan uses a lot of reds and browns to really bring you into like the desolate situation they're in, whereas Death Note uses a lot of blues and grays and whites, which again is really good for the gothic feel of the show, because I think it even fits with like Misa Amani, her gothic style. It fits. Both shows fit their style very well, but I just think I'm just more attracted to what Attack on Titan is laying down. And I think the animation also is a lot more fluid, because again, a lot of more like stuff where it's like don't action, it's so crazy. Like, when you watch it, you don't miss a beat with Attack on Titan. With Death Note, sometimes you see a couple of lines, and it's just not as good. It's not as good. Not as bad, but it's not as good. So Attack on Titan wins the animation round. Both of these shows can also be really, really scary, but not in a way of like jump scares, like boom, you know, but more in a way of like the atmosphere that both shows build. And it's really hard to pick a winner here because they have very, very different things at stake. So I'm just gonna give it a tie right away, but just in terms of general like atmosphere and build and how they're doing it, they're both doing a great job. And this ties into music. Both these shows have immaculate music. I think that Death Note has more iconic music, like you never forget that score. But when you hear some of those themes that play in Attack on Titan, it haunts you. It really does haunt you. Like you really feel a lot of fear and a lot of anxiety because those Titans are coming, man. They are freaking coming and they chomping. Hum, hum, hum. So this is another category. We have to give it a tie. This is just great composing, and I couldn't ask for a better listening experience than listening to both of these shows. Now, both these shows have a really good flair for drawing together and blurring the lines of realism and fantasy. I say that because look at what's at stake at Attack on Titan. Really, it's just a war, with the Titans being the other side. But this could have been a warring faction from another town. It could have been anything. But it's really just a war, and it's a war story, and you get to see the strife and the internal struggles and the beauty of humanity and the struggles of humanity and how crazy people can go and everything in between. Yes, it goes in other places later. Yes, it does that. But initially, at its core, it's about the humanity and the relationships. But then they have that little flair of the Titans, which aren't really explained. They're just there. And I mean, people are always going to wonder where the Titans come from. Hopefully we'll find out one day. But for right now, we don't know. And it's not really important. What's important is the people. And it does a really good job of us just kind of making you forget sometimes that they're fighting giant weird monsters. They're just fighting and they're struggling to live their lives. Whereas Death Note, it has the fantasy element of the Death Note itself. Now, the Death Note, we know where it comes from, but we don't really know how it really works. You just have to accept the idea that a Grim Reaper exists. That's just how it works in the show. But again, at its heart, it's not really about the deaths. It's about utilitarianism and fighting for the greater good. Like, Light is a character which blurs the line between good and bad because he's not really a bad guy, but he's also not really a good guy. His idea is to do what's best for the most of society or the better parts of society, and he wants to see his idea turn into truth. And his idea is not the worst one in the world. We've heard it before, you know? We've heard it before. But sometimes when you get in his way or you cross his idea, then you become a casualty. And that's where the drama lies. And it blurs that line again with that fantasy element of the Death Note and people die mysteriously and try to figure that out. And even just asking the question, is that right? Is it okay if only criminals die? Like, the world does get better when criminals are all dead. So is that a bad thing? Is it? I don't know. But this show makes you question yourself at every turn. And I know this isn't really a category, but to be honest, I'm just going to give this one all the way to both shows. Again, they both get tied because the human element and the fantasy draw line of it just being a war and interaction is so fascinating that you can't turn away. And the fact that Death Note is so dramatic and so engaging and does a good job of just drawing you to the character's world and like saying there is no bad guy. There is no real bad guy. There isn't. There is just justice. There is just utilitarianism. There is just like methodologies and ways of thinking, and it could be right or it could be wrong. So it's hard to pick a winner here. So let's just give it to both. Protagonist, you have Light and you have Eren. Now, personally, as the show went on towards the middle, I started to really hate Light and really fall in the camp with L, and so I can't really call my favorite protagonist of all time. But Eren, however, I used to not like that kid at first. He really bugged me, but as the show went on, I was like, yo, Team Eren. Eren, I root for you, Eren. I gotta say it the Japanese way. Eren, I love Eren. And for the sheer fact that he's just a strong character that only gets stronger, and he doesn't give up. And I'm not gonna say that the thing that happens to him later, isn't one of the coolest moments of all anime for me. But it is. So that just gives him the edge. Light progresses, Light grows, but Light, I think, like, in some ways, loses his way, and it's just not as likable of a character. I mean, he's admirable, but he's not likable, you know, and Eren is likable. So for me, the best protagonist between the two shows is Eren. Now, we're going to talk about the plot, as we already have. We talked about what the basic point is, but, like, which plot is better? A story where a book can kill anyone and challenges your morality, or a story about a war in which you're fighting to survive and there's mysteries afoot? Which one is better? It's all about your taste, man. It's all about your taste. Personally, I really like Death Note because I feel like it's more relatable because I don't think I ever will go to war, but I will have moral quandaries for the rest of my life. So for that sheer fact, I'm going to give it to Death Note. Like, all the time, I'm like, what if I had a Death Note? If I had a Death Note, would I be able to do it? I don't know what I would do in a situation where Titans showed up to my town. I'd probably be really scared and go hide I'd dig a hole and just hide in that hole when wait till everything's done. Like, I'm just gonna hang out in this hole and eat some dirt. I don't really want to fight. I am a pacifist, so the idea of having to fight scares the crap out of me, you know? And not to say that I don't respect anyone that does fight, but it scares the crap out of me. So I don't know if I can even relate to that situation. So that's just how I feel about it. But I do feel like Attack on Titan, for that reason, is a lot more intense than me. Like it's not an everyday situation, and it's just heart pounding because you just don't know how it's gonna go. Because war is unforgiving. We've come down to the point of the show where we must make a choice. Which show is better? But before I do that, let me just tell you right away. Both of these shows are incredible and they're both worth watching. They are some of the best anime of all time. If you haven't seen them, you should. And if you don't want to see them, what's wrong with you? These are really, really good shows with engaging action, story, plot, characters, animation, speeches. They make speeches awesome. Speeches are some of my favorite things in the world, and they highlight that. They really put you on. They're both unpredictable. You don't know who's gonna die. You don't know who's gonna win, but it's a great, great ride to get there. At least halfway. At least. Attack on Titan has a lot more episodes to go, maybe 3, 4, 5 more seasons, who knows. Death Note had one story it told and it's out of there, but we only rated it on the first set of episodes to keep it fair with Attack on Titan. But I'm just going to say, based on what I saw of Death Note thus far, it is one of my favorite shows of all time. Attack on Titan is also one of my favorite shows, but Death Note is still my actual favorite show. But I had to be impartial here and take everything into account, and I'll be really honest. And some people might get mad at me for this. I think that Death Note is a superior show, but I do think that Attack on Titan is better executed. I think that Death Note has a few sloppy moments, and it gets really messy towards that little middle part, and I won't talk about the ending, but like it just gets messy. Attack on Titan stays solid all the way through, and I get it. It's not done yet, but I don't see them really messing up any further more than Death Note could have. I've also read Death Note's manga, and I've read a lot of Attack on Titan's manga, and that little twist, that little part where you're sloppy is just part of the writing in the manga. It's just what happens in the manga. That little sloppiness is what happens. Whereas in Attack on Titan, the writing stays solid even as it crosses over into the second season. So for that reason, I'm gonna have to say that as the better series, Death Note wins. But Attack on Titan, once it's complete, will definitely be better and more consistent. But what did you think? Which show do you find more engaging? Which show do you love the most? And which show, counting only up to the halfway point, do you think is better? Attack on Titan or Death Note? Let me know down below. I'm Chris, and I use Teleport. And don't forget to let me know what show you want to see me debate next on the next anime debate. Also, we do topics, so if you have any topics about anime or questions, like I'm thinking about an episode discussing why like Japan and anime in general is so perverted in our eyes here in America, just kind of exploring that concept. But if you want to hear any other ideas, you know, just feel free to drop them down below and I'll be there. But thank you guys for watching. I'll see you guys on Monday for a nerd motivation. I'll see you on Wednesday for an anime debate again. I'll see you tomorrow, that's Thursday, for something weird. I'll do Pokemon videos now, and I do One Punch Man recaps. Thanks a lot, guys. Later. You can watch all that stuff. I'll have playlists floating above my head. Go check it out.